Hello, everyone. Dan here from the Next Issue Podcast. On today's video, we'll be doing a review for Absolute Power Origins #1. This is a new book from DC Comics. Let's take a look at the creative team before we get into this book. And what a fantastic cover! Very photorealistic. I was shocked to realize that this is not a picture when I got to the shop. So this book is written by John Ridley with art by Aletha Martinez. Norman Radman on inks, Andrew Dawes on colors, letters by Steve Wands, and Irvin Rodriguez gives us that beautiful cover. And here we see Amanda Waller stands on the cusp of absolute power in the DC universe, but her true motivations lie in the mysteries of her origin. Mysteries at last revealed. That's right. This is the origin story, Waller Year One, as you can see in the cover. In this issue, we have Academy Award winner writer John Ridley reveals Amanda Waller's tragic backstory. Discover the untold story of what led Amanda Waller to form the Trinity of Evil and take down the Earth superheroes. It's the Suicide Squad's founder as you've never seen it before. In an all-new companion miniseries to the Absolute Power event, the definitive history of one of the DCU's deadliest villains at last revealed. Amanda Waller's catastrophic attack on the metahumans of Earth has rendered both hero and villain powerless, but what led to the wall to this place? In Absolute Power Origins, you'll see that this team will tell the tale about how a woman who lost everything she held dear, powerless beneath the forces of senseless acts of chaos, the path of vengeance would bring her into two simple words that would change her life: never again. Yeah, and this is affecting all of the DC universe, which is insane. I think this is John really tells us a really interesting story by using some parallel comparisons, specifically the tragic backstory of Amanda Waller when compared to the tragic story of Bruce Wayne. That's kind of how we kick off the issue. And we very quickly see the motivations that led Amanda Waller to be who she is, to be this ruthless force of nature, as we've seen her. And I really enjoyed this issue. I didn't know what to expect out of this book, really. And Amanda Waller definitely has a very tragic backstory. She really has kind of lost everything and had to fight her way up from the bottom of the pile. And John really makes that very clear. But I really think that beginning this with a contrast of the story of and the origin of Batman kind of always sits in the background of this, because I think it's a very good way to kind of keep that comparison going. Now, Aletha Martinez, I think I've seen some of the work in prior issues, and I think it really fits the DC house style, specifically for a year one story. Right? I think it really works. So let me pull up some of the preview art here. As you can see, some of the parallels I was talking about, even the paneling, like side-by-side comparisons. You see the Waynes and young Bruce, where you see Amanda Waller's daughter and the Candyman, who will become a big part of that origin. And just going through this, the way the police treats them very differently in these cases, and the way that each family deals with their loss in their own way. It all really drives that point that Amanda Waller's gone through so much. And here we see that he had Amanda Waller's husband had no other recourse than to go out and chase vengeance himself and seek justice on his own. And this put Amanda Waller and her family in a really tight bind. But you can kind of see the timeline aligns with a young Bruce Wayne also being involved in those tragic events. So it's a really interesting comparison. Really some interesting parallels, but you can see that even from this beginning, and it is a pretty tough beginning, so keep that in mind. Like Amanda Waller has been a force to contend with. So this was very interesting. I'm definitely gonna enjoy this book. I think it will be something that will read better for me. It's only a 3-part miniseries, so I might just wait till it's, because it's only running parallel to Absolute Power. I think this is going to be fine for me to read once it's all completed. But definitely want to, if they keep doing those painterly photorealistic type of covers like the ones we saw, definitely going to pick up all 3. So hello everyone, Dan here from the Next Issue Podcast. On today's video, I'll be doing a review for Absolute Power Task Force 7 Number two, this is 2 of 7. This is the mini series that follows along the path um, to look into these Amazo robots, right? So it's going to be run in parallel through the events of Absolute Power. But let's take a look at the creative team. This story is written by John Layman with art by Max Rayner, colors by Luis Guerrero, letters by Dave Sharp. And now that Amanda Waller has won a planet-wide blitzkrieg and has robbed the world's metahumans of their superpowers and resources, those few who have thus evaded the capture are fugitives on the run, hunted mercilessly by Task Force 7, a regiment of unstoppable Amazos built by Amanda Waller's allies, Failsafe and the Brainiac Queen. So there you have it. Uh, and in this issue, it is the hostile takeover of Atlantis. Depth charge rises up. Atlantis now has a new ruler. Long live Depth Charge. So Depth Charge is the Mazo robot that took pretty much Aquaman's powers, right? So, and not only Aquaman, but like that, those are kind of the main powers. I think it's also throughout the story we learned that he also took the Doom Patrol's powers, which kind of shows up a little bit in his design. And I picked up this design variant in foil by Dan Mora. Really cool. Like you can see kind of the color palette definitely gives Aquaman vibes, but his face, his head, is kind of purple. So like that reflects a little bit of that Doom Patrol, I think. Um, but yeah, this robot has stolen Aquaman's powers along with his throne, and now all Atlanteans must stay in line or risk having their powers taken as well. It is up to Jackson Hyde and the rest of the Aqua family to launch a revolution without being discovered. So, as I mentioned, interestingly enough, this book begins with the Doom Patrol losing their powers to the Mazo droid. Now, if you haven't read the latest Doom Patrol series, there is a new member, so you'll see that member in this book as well. But it's definitely the more familiar characters that we know, specifically if you watch the TV show, which is a really fun touch to watch the Doom Patrol and figure out how did they get involved with this character, with this Amazo. So let me pull up some of the preview art, and I'll talk a little bit more about the story as well. And we kick off really in media res. I love this first page that you can see that Elastigirl when she was knocked out, right? So Rita was in full, like she was in gigantic form when she passed out. You can see the outline here, but she wakes up in normal size because she has lost her powers. Robot Man has lost an arm, and here even we see Mr. Negative, uh, knowing that he lost his power because his hands are back to normal, right? We know that he has he we know that he's deformed or scarred or whatever you want to call it. So that's really interesting. And then of course we plunged into the depths as some of the Atlanteans start working with the Doom Patrol, and even we see the citizens of Atlantis um, being affected by everything that's going on. So I think this series has been quite interesting so far. We've only had two. We talked about the Last Sun in the first issue, which was the Amazo that stole the Kryptonians' powers. Now we have Depth Charge going after Atlantis. So I'm interested to see how the series evolves and then how everything kind of ties back into the main series. So that'll be fun. Great to see different creative teams in this series. So you'll definitely get a lot of different perspectives all throughout the 7 issues. So, hello everyone, Daniel here from the Next Issue Podcast. On today's video, we'll be doing a review for a new book from Distillery. This is The Big Burn #1. Let's talk about the creative team before we get into this book. This book is written by Joe Henderson with art by Lee Garbert, Lilo Ridge and colors, letters by Simon Bolin. I have been really enjoying these Distillery books. Also, luckily, I was able to join a kind of a media Zoom call for this book where we got to talk to the creative team behind this, along with some of the other Distillery folk. It was a really nice Distillery happy hour. So let's talk about this book. This is a new series debut from the Eisner nominated creative team of Skyward. Owen and Charlie are the Bonnie and Clyde of the 21st century, a smooth, slick duo who pull off impossible heists and have the time of their lives doing so. But when justice finally catches up to them, they think it's all over until the devil himself offers them a deal: their freedom for their very souls. But they soon find out that without their souls, their love is also missing. So they set out to recruit a crew of the damned for the ultimate heist to break into hell, steal their souls back. Joe Henderson and Lee Garbert invite you on a thrilling journey to hell that like you've never seen before, a place perfectly designed to give people hope so that the devil can torture them when he takes it away over and over. Yeah, that's right. Hell is a casino, and even with the greatest team of thieves, the house always wins. This is a book recommended for fans of Ocean's 11, like myself, Inception, of course, Lucifer, and Out of Sight. So, uh, this book already checks out a lot of my boxes just within the premise and the team itself. I actually really enjoyed Skyward, so it's really cool to see the team kind of come back together for this. And I'm a sucker for a heist, right? The book very naturally allows you to meet these characters and figure out who they are. So you kind of get to know them throughout their work and how they got together, how they met, and the circumstances that brought them to that faithful meeting to kind of work together after that. And of course, meeting the devil, which you'll see in some of the preview art. Really interesting character design for the devil and also for the other characters. But I love at first issue where we just kind of spend some time putting together a crew, meeting all kinds of weird and rowdy characters. That's just kind of some of the stuff that I really enjoy. So if you're a fan of that genre, I think this book captures that really well. So let's take a look at some of the preview art here. And as I mentioned, Lilo Ridge, I really like his style. Even just the way how he dresses in fashion and the characters, like it all feels just like a very cool film, right? And then we get to see here the devil, which during the Zoom call, he talked about how the beard and his hair, it all kind of forms the trident. So that was a really fun detail. So yeah, I like all the details that they're putting in here. The conversation with the devil, I love the lettering as well, how it's white with the black background to definitely let you know there's something supernatural going on, but it's not over the top outlandish stuff, right? It's just very, even for this genre, it feels very grounded. But yeah, you get a heist, you get the devil, you get a big casino in hell. So what else could you want? I really like the idea of like hell being a place that always where you think you can win, but of course you never really can. So highly recommend this book. Distillery has been putting out. I'm pretty much reading almost all the books that they put out so far, and I really quite enjoy them. I think there's one for sure that maybe wasn't for me, but this one's right up my alley. So I really really enjoyed checking that out. So this should be out at your comic shop. So make sure to go check it out. Hello everyone, Dan here from the Next Issue Podcast. On today's video, I'll be doing a review for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles #1. This is it. The relaunch of the TMNT series is finally here from IDW. But let's take a look at the creative team before we get into all that. Return to New York Part 1 is got a script by Jason Aaron with art by Joel Jones, colors by Rhonda Pattinson, letters by Sean Lee. And as you can see here, each one of these issues, if you missed our preview, Jeff and I both did a preview for TMNT #1, where we kind of talk a little bit about the setup. So each of the first 4 issues will focus on a different turtle, right? We also talked a little bit about that free comic book day, the free comic book day, and then the Alpha TMNT Alpha issue that came out a little while ago. But in this issue, we have a new series premiere, new, fresh, jumping on point. The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles have all left New York to pursue their own interests, but there are forces gathering that will pull them back together, whether the bad guys like it or not. First up in this first issue, we have Raphael. But why is everyone's favorite brawler in prison? When a surprise attack behind bars put Raph's position in jeopardy, he needs to figure out how to get out of jail and warn his brothers that trouble is coming. Superstar writer Jason Aaron teams up with Joelle Jones, whose art is magnificent. Like, go check out her work on Lady Killer or Catwoman over at DC for this first issue of the TMNT series that will start a bold new era celebrating TMNT's 40th anniversary while setting them up for the next 40 years to come. That's a lot to ask for an issue number one, but I think overall they really nailed it. I like the idea of visiting each of the turtles. It's interesting to have them. It's interesting to go at their mythology uh, as they are separated. You rarely see that, right? Sometimes one of them may be missing, one of them may be out on a mission, one of them may be lost in time, right? Um, but this is all still really picking up from whatever point we left off at issue 150 and all those repercussions. This is all still in that same world. It's not a isn't To me, this doesn't feel like a reboot or a relaunch of everything. To me, this feels like we're gonna move forward, but we need to create a point where new people can jump on. And I think Raph is a very good choice to start off with. Although he's not my favorite turtle, he's one of the like they're all very cool, but we each have our own favorite, right? But Ralph, like he's great. He's the one that's gonna bring you a lot of action because he is the fighter. Um, he's not gonna just think his way out of everything because he's not Donnie. Leonardo's the calm one, and Mikey, I can't wait for that issue. I hope that my boy Mikey's doing all right. But yeah, now let's pull up some of the preview art so you can see Joel Jones's work. Now this does feel a little bit different from anything that I've seen before from Jones. It's a lot more muted. I think I do love the aesthetic that she gives the turtles, Raphael in this case, as we kind of visit this prison setting. Uh, I I got a lot of vibes from like Shawshank Redemption type of stuff, which is interesting for a Ninja Turtles book to kind of evoke that stuff. But there it is. That that's kind of what this is about. So as some of these prisoners try to escape, Ralph is there also to stop them. So his mission to enact justice is still around. Just that he's also now, I guess, he's suffering some kind of penance, but we don't know exactly why. And then now that he's being attacked, and then he knows that his brothers may be in danger, he'll have to act fast. So yeah, really cool launching on point. Of course, there's going to be like a million covers that you can pick up. There's a few at the end of the video that you can check out. So let me know which one you end up picking up. But also, once you read this book, let me know what did you think of this. Like I said, I really enjoy Jason Aaron's writing and everything that he's been doing. Especially, he's been doing a lot of work recently on both Marvel and DC, just leaving some really cool stories there, and even just doing some other little stuff on indie comics. Which, if you haven't read Jason Aaron's indie work, you should definitely go check it out. But yeah, I welcome him to the franchise, and I do expect to. I'm very excited for the first four issues because they each will have a different artist, and then from there we'll have an artist for the next arc. So yeah, I can't wait to see. Of course, waiting for that Donatello issue because he is my favorite turtle. So. Hello everyone, Dan here from the Next Issue Podcast. On today's video, I'll be doing a review for Nemesis Rose Gallery number 1. This is a new book from Dark Horse Comics. This is Mark Millar's moved over his Nemesis and some of his books over to Dark Horse because as you might have seen, the last event from this was not published by this same publisher. But let's talk about the creative team. Of course, this is written by Mark Millar with art by Valero Giangiordano, colors by Lee Lorridge, letters by Clem Robbins. You'll see some really cool covers at the end of the video. And of course, Nemesis, created by Mark Millar and Steve McNiven. So, if you missed out on the big game crossover event, where it was pretty much all of Millar World's properties being combined into this gigantic event, you may want to go read that. It is not necessary reading, but you may want to go read that. I thought it was a fun event overall, and I'm not super caught up with everything that Mark Millar's and Miller World's been putting out. So, in this issue, Miller World and Dark Horse Comics are proud to present the debut of a brand new arc of the best-selling thriller Nemesis. Now, I've never read any of the original Nemesis, but even then, you really very immediately get who the character is supposed to be. So, immediately following the events of the smash hit Big Game, which, if you haven't read it, there'll be some spoilers here. Nemesis lies broken and destroyed, but hell-bent on vengeance against every single person who wronged them. The bloody fireback begins here as he marshals together a plan for the ages. Boy, what a plan! But of course, first of all, first things he's got to do is rebuild, re-evolve. Right? He's broken, he's battered, he's bruised. So he needs to put pieces in motion to one of the interesting things about a character like Nemesis is that you can never give him any room, right? He's definitely like this sociopath, like it's like a sociopathic version of Batman. You can't, so he's willing to cross the lines that even Batman wouldn't, which is really interesting because, of course, his outfit is all white. And there's a lot of, if you read, there's a Nemesis Reloaded series that you can read prior to the big game event as well. Leads right up into that. So yeah, it looks like Nemesis is going to be a character that Miller World just kind of keeps wants to go back and revisit, and I think it's because he is a interesting character to follow. He's crazy. It's cool. There's a lot of violence that he dispatches out in his series. So let's take a look at some of the preview art because I'm not too familiar with Gian Giordano's work, but it really works. It's very different from the last time I saw. The last couple of artists have been Jorge Jimenez and Pepe Larraz, and this is definitely very different from that. It's a lot darker, a lot grittier. It's not as stylized. It definitely feels a little bit more grounded, which makes sense though for the tone of the book, because Nemesis is grounded himself. He's not being this outlandish character that's going around blowing buildings up or whatever. He's stuck in this bed for now. He's being taken care of by a nurse. So yeah, very interesting stuff. Like I said, very dark tone. But then, of course, there's always a plan in motion, right? Somebody comes in to kill him, and he is always, of course, ready for that. Uh, Even then, he has some help from the outside. So, yeah, this series, if you're a Nemesis fan, I think you're gonna enjoy this. If you've never read Nemesis, like I said, I definitely recommend you check out the previous series, the Reloaded and Big Game, because you can kind of see the arc of the character, but it's not necessary. You can just jump on here and then kind of catch up because this book will tonally will bring you up to speed with who this character is supposed to be. So other than that, there's really not a lot of lore that you need or that is required for this book. So I think Miller World and Dark Horse knew that you have to keep inviting people into this world throughout all these series. So hello everyone, Dane here from the Next Issue Podcast. On today's video, we'll be doing a review for Flash Garden #1. This is a new book from Mad Cave Studios. Let's talk about the creative team before we get into this book. This book is written by Jeremy Adams, with art by Will Conrad, colors by Lilo Rich, letters by Taylor Sposito. Also, if you scan the QR code that is on this first page, or the cover page for the credits, if you scan the cover page, this QR code, you'll get a free digital download of Flash Gordon #0, the free comic book day issue, which is a little prequel story for this. So that's really, really cool. You could probably even scan it off of the screen there. I don't know if it'll work, but I don't see why it wouldn't. So in this issue, Flash awakes on a secret prison planet somewhere in the galaxy upon learning that Dale Arden is the subject of an assassination plot. He's forced to break out and make his way across the galaxy to save her. Along the way, he encounters old friends, new threats, and a greater mystery surrounding who is pulling the strings of the universe. This first exciting issue is an all-new ongoing series. Before I get into the actual review, I don't have a lot of history with Flash Gordon. Matter of fact, I've never really watched the film, but I have read a few comics. And I think it's really fun that Mad Cave is doing a book that it's inviting to a new audience while still giving, loyal fans, old readers, people that are steeped in the mythology of the Flash Gordon universe, they're getting something fun, right? So that's definitely my first takeaway from this, that it's very inviting. If you've never watched or read or experienced any Flash Gordon, which you should at least go listen to that Queen soundtrack. This is not going to dissuade you from that in any way. And it's a very straightforward story to begin with. But of course, you always get the the Flash Gordon twist, right? There's definitely something that lets you know that he's a special kind of guy. There's a reason why he is this legend in the cosmos, which really comes across in this first issue. I also think that Will Conrad draws some really fun characters, especially because he has to do a lot of really different types of alien life forms and robots and all this stuff that you would find in a sci-fi fantasy epic kind of like this. But while Flash Gordon does get a little bit of a redesign, like he maintains that flair that I feel makes the original look so iconic. So, yeah, this is a really fun comic book. Really enjoyed it. So, let me pull up some of the preview art so you can see what I'm talking about. And look, this is just very straightforward. You get to see Flash Gordon in prison. We have a robot who is his jailer for now. Also, man, the most uncomfortable way to be in prison, I would think, just kind of slow, like in this diagonal shaped where you're gonna kind of fall over the from the table. I love the detail of the other prisoner in the back. Looks like he's dead. So like, what does that mean? What's going on? Like, what is this prison? It's called Death Planet, right? So, or Planet Death. So, like, that doesn't bode well for our hero. So, but yeah, great introduction to the series. Mad Cave's bringing a lot of these really fun properties back into comic form, and I think that's really cool. You know, so I'm very interested to see where this goes, and really interested to follow along. They're planning out a whole, from what I've gathered, they're planning out a whole like defenders of. I think they're called the Defenders of Earth. There's a whole. There's a few other heroes that are kind of connected to this universe in some kind of way. So I think that'll be fun to see over the next few months how that unravels. Hello everyone, Dan here from the Next Issue Podcast. On today's video, we'll be doing a review for a new book from Boom Studios, Berserker, A Face Full of Bullets. Number one, this is a one-shot in the Berserker world. Let's talk about the creative team before we get into this book. This book, of course, created by Keanu Reeves, written by Jason Aaron, with art by Salvador LaRocca, Lilo Ridge on colors, letters by Ed Dukeshire. Really, really fun book. Let's get into it. In this book, when B finds himself in the middle of a grudge match between a greedy land baron and his runaway daughter, he must decide if he will play the role of guardian angel or succumb to his violent tendencies. And when the runaway prays for vengeance she so obsessively clings to, God's answer might be more than she bargained for. So let's talk about this book. I'm a pretty big fan of the Berserker world. I will say that up front. So, although this issue may not be as inviting for everyone if you're not fully aware of Berserker, I think it's still a really fun new chapter, and just all these little one shots have been actually really interesting. You get to see different creative teams work behind them, and you get to see different artists take a shot at building out this world. You get to explore different genres, right? In this one, we have a bit more of a western, so it's really interesting to have Jason Aaron doing a western along with Salvador LaRocca. So, uh, the story is very straightforward, very simple. It's about vengeance. It's about somebody trying to run away. So there's really no big surprises there. But I think Jason Aaron's very good at delivering just a very solid performance. All this as the story goes along, he definitely captures the essence of the character of B, which as an immortal, as somebody that lives for so long, a lot of these things are kind of inconsequential to him, but he does have a code, and I think Jason Aaron definitely points that out. And of course, surprises along the way. A lot of violence, really gnarly stuff, which La Roca definitely captures. So let me pull up some preview art here. You can see B here. He's the one that's kind of strung up at the time, but of course, he is immortal. He will not die, and this kid is trying to help him get down from there, which maybe was a mistake, maybe not. Who knows? But yeah, I really like the aesthetic of the Western. It's just a really fun way to kick off the story to relate to even new readers the abilities that B is kind of immortal. He will not die from something like this. So, uh, and that's really what this is all about: inviting new readers to check out more of this world. Like I mentioned, the book definitely gets a lot more action packed. There's bullets flying everywhere. There's guts flying everywhere, and of course, B's kind of at the center of it, with a very stoic presence all the time, very calm demeanor. But when it's time to go, he's definitely gonna go. So, hello everyone, Daniel here from the Next Issue Podcast. On today's video, we'll be doing a review for Spawn Kills Every Spawn, #1. This is a new miniseries, 1 of 5 from Image Comics. Let's talk about the creative team before we get into this book. This book is written by John Layman with art by Rob Duenas, Robert Nugent on colors, letters by John Layman, which is really fun. You don't normally see the writer lettering his own book. That's really cool. Um, so this seems like a pretty insane premise. We have a spawn that's gonna kill all the other spawn. So I definitely wanted to check that out. I haven't read much John Layman. I think that he's got a very silly and weird style that sometimes doesn't appeal to me. Like I've checked out some of his other series, like specifically Chew. It just wasn't kind of something that I was looking for. But with the character of Spawn, you never know what's going to happen. So in this issue, what happens when you find out you're not the only Hellspawn? What if also you find out you're not the coolest Hellspawn? Easy answer: you kill them all. I mean, come on, this premise just writes itself. But I think Layman does a really good job of giving us very interesting motivation. This book is going to be full of crazy action, very silly stuff, a lot of violence, and mitigated violence for sure. And you get to follow a character that maybe he's not the funnest one around. And you can kind of see why he wouldn't be the coolest Spawn, but maybe by the end of the book he will be. So I'm interested to see where the curveball is going, because issue #1, very straightforward here. Although a lot of meta commentary here about conventions and stuff like that, especially with San Diego coming up. So yeah, this was a fun ride. And I'm definitely, in a 5-issue series, it's a very low commitment, so I think I can definitely stick around. Let's talk about some of the art here. As you can see, Rob Duenas is just going all out with the violence. Luckily, Spawn's blood is green, so it doesn't look as gory. Well, I guess not every Spawn's blood is green. You can see the gunslinger being taken out as well, but his blood is red. And yeah, we don't know much about this other little Spawn. I think even at some point he calls himself Lil Spawn or something like that, which is really funky. So I had never heard of this character, but if you just look at all the details here, I mean, come on, last Spawn standing, who's it gonna be? So yeah, I mean, I don't know what else you could ask for in a book like this. So yeah, this was just it was really just a really fun and silly ride, following along this new little character. So and also of course getting to see a whole lot of all these other different versions of Spawn, and characters from the Spawn universe. So I do expect a little bit of a twist or something to come up in the second issue, but even if it's just a straightforward revisiting through the nostalgia of Spawn, who's a character that's been around since the 90s, we definitely have a lot to cover there. So if you have read this issue, let me know, what did you think about it down in the comments. As always, thank you for watching, everyone. Remember to share, like, subscribe, hit the bell so you know when we go live. That is most Saturdays, 10 a.m. Central Standard Time. Stay tuned. We have more comic reviews, trailer reactions, TV recaps, all that fun stuff in the channel. Thanks for watching, everyone. Bye-bye.